Hey VC, Big Star 1000 with part 3 of the Gimme 10 on the UK jazz scene, and today I'm going to showcase 10 records of the modern era from 2010 and beyond. The UK jazz scene, or rather the London jazz scene, if you can narrow it down, although all the records I'm going to show you are not exclusively from London, but we'll just, call it that for the purpose of the video. So the London jazz scene is a very vibrant probably one of the most vibrant jazz scenes in the world at the moment, along with the one here in Melbourne, which may be also showcased in the Gimme 10 in the near future. And you could also talk about Chicago with the International Anthem label. Seems to be very, very vibrant. I don't know, I don't live there, but I can just imagine. And with the London jazz scene, really, all I know is the records that I've heard. I don't live there either, and it'd be funny if someone like Shabaka Hutchins watched this video and thought, who is this idiot? Anyway, I'm digressing. The UK jazz scene, or the London jazz scene, is different from, say, the Melbourne scene, for example, in that there is a vast amount of cross-pollination that's happened due to the ethnic representation of the players themselves. You have people who come from African backgrounds and from Caribbean backgrounds, and also British, evidently, but all these influences are merged into the sounds that you hear, and further to this, you could say that it takes from so many different genres of music. For example, jazz is fused with broken beat and grime and neo-soul and hip-hop to produce some very interesting results sonically. And then all the players play on each other's records. It's like what I was talking about in the first UK jazz video, where someone like Ian Carr would have played on 6 of these records, and it's the same for someone like Shabaka Hutchins or Nubia Garcia, or the people I'm going to talk about right now. And so, as I'm talking about Shabaka Hutchins, Shabaka is the band leader in 3 main bands. The Comet is Coming, which I'm not going to feature today because I want to show you other records, but it should really belong in this Gimme 10, but I'm going to ignore it for today. Shabaka and the Wisdom of Elders, which is also amazing, and this band here, the Sons of Kemet. Sons of Kemet is a project that this was released on Impulse in 2018. It's called Your Queen is a Reptile. This is a project featuring obviously Shabaka Hutchins on sax, as well as Nubia, I don't know which one the right pronunciation is, Garcia on sax as well, and you have the amazing trombone playing of Theon Cross on this too. This is a frantic, very Caribbean infused jazz record. It is really over the top, bombastic at times, with sort of angry spoken word lyrics. It is just incredible, this record. You must hear this if you haven't. All the tracks are named after female activists like Angela Davis and Ada Eastman. So it is kind of a tribute to feminism in a way. Shabaka Hutchins to me is like a modern cross between John Coltrane and Fela Kuti. It's got this kind of spiritual jazz, but that actually digs really deep into Afro jazz as well. It's a brand of Afrofuturism which is very, very delightful. You must hear this if you haven't. Theon Cross is amazing. I don't know how to talk about this properly to do it justice, but it's a great record. So Shabaka Hutchins also plays on this album here, which I've got on CD. This album is by a female trumpet player called Zahra Ahmed. I will get the booklet out so that you can see her name. This is Zahra Ahmed, and she is a trumpet and flugelhorn player who was born in London and then moved to Bahrain for many years, I think until she was like 9 or 10 years old, and then came back to London. And the music is very sort of infused with Arabic influences, so it's jazz with a strong Middle Eastern sound. This is a wonderful album. It's called La Saboteuse. It's got a French title. And this came out in 2017 perhaps. I couldn't even tell you because I don't remember. And I've got this on CD because that's how I bought it. But this is an absolutely fantastic record. This came out in 2017, that's correct. The artwork is quite sublime, I think. So this has got a real sort of Eastern feel. It's very jazzy, very spiritual jazz, but with a real beautiful Eastern feel. I very highly recommend this. And Shabaka Hutchins also appears on this project, which is Yusuf Kemal and the band's called Yusuf Kemal, but the band is named after two guys. The first is Yusuf Days, who is a drummer, and Kamal Williams, whose real name is Henry Williams, also is known as Henry Wu, and on this is credited on this record is credited as Henry Wu. So you've got Yusuf Days on drums and Henry Wu on Rhodes, and Mansur Brown is on electric guitar. Shabaka Hutchins is on tenor sax, and it's worth to note that this was produced by Malcolm Cato from the Heliocentrics. The Heliocentrics is a great UK jazz band too, which I'm not going to talk about to you today, but I could. So this is fantastic. This is really a fusion of jazz funk and broken beats. It's got this kind of future jazz kind of sound on this. Very driving, very funky, lots of Rhodes. I recommend the track Strings of Light. I think it's an absolute smoker, String of Light. So this is a great record. This is a record from the Brandswood label, Brandswood Recordings, which you would know by now if you're half following this channel. Brandswood Recording is the label from Giles Peterson, the DJ, who everybody knows, and has put out many great compilation and records, and his label now focuses a lot on the modern UK jazz scene, and he even released We At Ear, which is the London Jazz the reference London Jazz compilation, which I don't have, but I know. And another band that Giles Peterson produced on his label is this band here, Maisha. And Maisha is a spiritual jazz band with kind of an Afro, a sort of a spiritual Afro vibe. And the band is led by the drummer Jake Long, and is fronted also by Nubia Garcia, who I've talked about before. And this is a beautiful, spiritual jazz record, modern spiritual jazz record from 2000 and I don't know, again 2018, produced by Giles. Well, released by Giles Peterson on his Brandswood Recordings label. Fantastic, very, very highly recommended. And so I was talking about Nubia Garcia. Nubia Garcia, I don't know which is the pronunciation, is a sax player who grew up in Camden in London. She is of, let me remember, Trinidad and Guyana background. I think a father is from British Guyana, a mum is from Trinidad. So you've got a very, very strong sense of that kind of Caribbean music in here. She was a sort of a child prodigy, you know. She was in the, you know, very early on in the London Symphony Orchestra, and she played viola and violin, and then later switched to sax. This is, I think, her first solo album. It's put out by a great label called Jazz Refreshed, and they do this series called 5. So if you go on their website, you can see there's a lot of artists that have released a 5. Ashley Henry's 5, I can't remember now, but there's quite a few of them. And this here features Joe Armon-Jones, who is the keyboard player in Ezra Collective. I'm going to talk about Ezra in a second. Moses Boyd, great drummer, also very, very deeply influenced by sort of broken beat and future jazz, and has got Femi Caloso, also from the Ezra Collective, and Sheila Morris Gray, as well as Theon Cross. So this is like a who's who of the UK jazz scene, basically. It's a beautiful, beautiful record. Spiritual, Afro-tinged spiritual jazz, fantastic, must hear. So Femi Caloso and Joe Armon-Jones are in Ezra Collective. Ezra Collective is a great London band and very, very, very much influenced by Afrobeat. This is considered to be an EP, but it's long enough to be an album. When did albums start being double albums? I don't know. I've got no idea. But this to me feels like an album. It's long enough. So yeah, Femi Caloso plays the drums, and Joe Armon-Jones plays the keys, the Fender Rhodes. This is killer. Really, really, really beautiful record. I very, very highly recommend. 2017, very Afrobeat infused record. Excellence, brilliant. Joe Armon-Jones, I was talking about him. He features on this record, Drift Glass by the Seed Ensemble. This is a fantastic, again, Afro-Caribbean sounding record, spiritual jazz again, big sort of ensemble, Afro-futuristic to the max. This is brilliant. It's a band led by a sax player called Kasi Kinoshi, and again Sheila Morris Gray, who was on the Nubia Garcia record. Now Sheila Morris Gray is also in an Afrobeat band called Coco Roco, and also worth checking out. I was just mentioning that to you just in case. Theon Cross on tuba, Joe Armon-Jones. And this even features Sarah Tandy on piano, and I really, really like Sarah Tandy's solo record, Infection in the Sentence. But this here is really, really beautiful. And this was propped up by the fact that it got nominated to the Mercury Music Prize in 2018. The Mercury Music Prize is a big prize in the UK, and for example, Portishead won the Mercury Music Prize for Dummy. So it's a big, so it got nominated, and the sales of this album like doubled overnight. But it's not why I bought it. It's a great record. Next we are going to drift away a little bit from the London scene, and this is a fantastic artist, Matthew Halsey. Matthew Halsey is from Manchester. He's not from London, and Matthew Halsey is basically practicing the teachings of John Coltrane, no more no less. This is northern English spiritual jazz, as it was the quote, rain-stricken spiritual jazz. You know, like it works really well. So Matthew Halsey grew up near Wigan, in the region of Manchester, and he created about 10 years ago a label called Gondwana. As you can see that. This is the first solo album by Matthew Halsey. It's called Sending My Love. This is a repress with the bonus tracks. And this even features Nat Birchall on sax. And I must talk about Nat Birchall because he's also a heavyweight on that scene. He's a bit older than the other players, but still really worth checking. And I was talking recently about his tribute album to Yusuf Lateef, which is really worth getting. This is fantastic, beautiful spiritual jazz on the Gondwana label. A couple more. Gregg Furth. Now, this album was released on Jasmine Records, the Gregg Furth group. Girl and Robot with Flowers. It looks very futuristic, and at time it is. It's kind of 70s Miles jazz fusion, but with you know, a sort of it's a very varied record. That is, sometimes it's very sort of Sun Ra-ish and very Electric Miles, and in other moments it's very Bill Evans, like the Girl and Robot with Flowers Part 4 is a beautiful Bill Evans solo piano track. You know, Cast Adrift is, you know, has got a slightly modal jazzy feel, and but you've got tracks like Have Spacesuit Will Travel. You know, obviously it's a different kind of a feel. But Gregg Furth has released so far about 15 records under a different under different names, different aliases. Furth in Hampshire, the Gregg Furth group, Gregg Furth, you know, and it's all sort of, it's kind of 70s jazz fusion, you know, Sun Ra territory, a little bit of you know, Herbie Hancock Mwandishi type of sounds. It's great. This is a fantastic record. And the last one is by a band which is all the rage at the moment, Ill Considered. This is their very first record. Ill Considered is a trio from London. In fact, it's a four-piece. It's got Idris Rahman on sax, Leon Bridget on bass, and Emre Ramazanoglu on drums. And they're augmented always on most of the records by a percussion player. And this is their very first record. The difficult thing with Ill Considered is they record just about everything, and they release them in such quick succession that it's sometimes very difficult to get hold on them. But this was in a local store, and I got it only recently, to be honest. But I love this very Afrobeat, spiritual jazz vibe. It's just, it's a terrific record. I'd like to explore more of the others. I've got two of them, but I'd be interested to explore some of the others. The band that is vaguely related to this is Wildflower as well, worth checking out too. But there you go. I think I've given you a good roundup on the main players, but I might have forgotten things. However, I hope you enjoyed this installment, and you can leave me some comments and vibe with me. Thank you guys. Love you all.